And mindfulness is also really important in Buddhism, and that you have to be mindful of yourself, you have to be mindful of your own motivations, right? Be mindful of what are you really looking for. You're looking just to feel good about yourself, right? Or are you really looking to help others? Like, there's an idea of dana, or of giving. But true dana is selfless giving. Not giving to feel good about yourself, but truly to give for the sake of the other. Very difficult, maybe impossible, I don't know, but that, well, Buddhist tradition would say, no, it's not impossible. The Buddha did it. I think that maybe we can see the Dalai Lama doing that. And obviously, I think we see people, not only Buddhists, in other communities, engaging in just really incredible selfless activity. But it's really important, I think, to be able to engage in that mindfulness and self-reflection as well, and not to be afraid, maybe, to see, because we are human, we are imperfect. And so...
May I ask you, when you describe this thing, I fully agree with you, and the Sufi masters, Muslim mystics, and others, even Lao Tzu has said a long time ago, let there be no evil in your thoughts. And I just emphasize by saying that there will be no evil in your private thoughts, meaning thoughts are mostly private, but I just double it to make sure. What I'm thinking of you in my head should not be different than what I'm saying to you in the face. But that makes me a better human being if I follow that. How do you think that necessarily affects the issue of dispute over water, or territory, or practices, or value system, or the notion of gay marriage, and keeping in mind that it could happen to somebody as educated as Professor Henry Louis Gates Jr., what happened in recent at Harvard, when he was trying to enter his own home, he was arrested. So how do we make sure that these are not just very pleasant exchanges among few scholars and have a larger public benefit, and we are able to essentially change the ethical character of the communities we are serving? How would you reflect from Buddhist point? What would be Buddhist reflection on that?
Yeah. That's. I think, again, I think that this ideal of self-reflection. See, in my particular school of Buddhism, which is Japanese, and it's a Japanese form of Pure Land Buddhism, it really is important to be willing to really see yourself, and willing to see, not so much to try and be perfect, not so much to try and erase all evil from myself, but to be willing to see when I'm not being perfect, to be willing to see when I am not, when I do have maybe improper thoughts or evil thoughts or self-centered thoughts would maybe be the way. And so I think that, though that's an ideal that we worry too much sometimes about. I mean, of course we have problems. We have racial problems in this country and all kinds of inequality. But sometimes I think that we're afraid to acknowledge that. And maybe a more being able to see that in yourself is the first step to changing that. If you can't see that, if you can't have that self-reflection and willingness to see where we're not being perfect, then I think that only leads to more problems.
Can we take ourselves, I'm sure we need to take ourselves as a starting point, but can we also take ourselves as the ending point? Because if we take ourselves as the starting point of reflection, and we put ourselves at the center of the universe, and we end with ourselves being in the center of the universe, I'm afraid we have not solved many problems. That might create conditions under which situation emerges even Samari Gandhi, when the untouchables and leader of the untouchable came to see him. And he wrote a booklet on why I hate Gandhi and Jinnah, because he felt Gandhi was so much self-centered around his own notions of Swaraj that he could not see the misery of somebody else. So my question to you as a philosopher, as a thinker, as a practitioner, as a Buddhist priest, for your reflection as a Buddhist, are we not giving ourselves too much importance if we start with ourselves and end with ourselves and say, my job is to purify my soul, I've done so, and I even know my sins and my weaknesses, and that's the end of my day. Do we not need some more work on that?
Well, I mean, Mahayana Buddhism, absolutely that one needs to walk the path oneself. Because it's understood in Buddhism that if you aren't walking the path, then you have ignorance, that you are self-centered, right, and that you can't really help others if you are kind of trapped within yourself. But Mahayana Buddhism is absolutely also about helping others, and helping others to relieve their suffering, helping them to also walk the path. And so it has to be those two. You're right. If it is just purely a kind of journey of the self, then it's only half the picture. And I think that in Buddhism that wouldn't be correct. That it has to be coupled with, actually the other side has to be more important. But it's understood that if I try to help others without helping, advancing myself, then that will, often the best intention, the road to hell is paved with the best intentions, right? That we're trying to help others, but am I really doing it to help you, or am I doing it for myself?
When you become the change you want, you at least have cured 1% of the disease you want to eliminate. So starting yourself works very well, but he could not eliminate the disease of untouchability from his own soul. That's why Dr. Ambedkar had to reject him. Let's not ask that question. There have to be some practical tests of our spirituality, and that's the condition of people around us, is it not? If we keep them in their position of subjugation, then obviously we're not engaging in a spiritual enterprise. We're using faith as a means to keep other people down and out. Let me ask you, what will your position in a situation of difficulty? Will you're in a group, will it be willing to take a difficult decision?
Is it difficult to take a decision?
No, I'm asking you in a situation of conflict.
Yes.
Where there are two sides and we're all in deep conflict. Is the membership of your group or leadership has a framework in which it can say this party is right, that party is wrong, we stand with the aggrieved party, not with them, or will they always say no, we want to be in the middle?
Very good question. And we have faced this several times. And it's hard. And to minimize deeply entrenched beliefs and the emotions that go along with generations of suffering on both sides does come forward as we speak with our members of our cooperation circles. We have a global board of directors, and just this past year, as the bombs were going off in the Middle East, in Gaza, we had our board of our trustees from Palestine and from Jordan and from Israel and from Pakistan and from Ethiopia, Germany, talking to each other, trying to come out with a statement that you or I could take a stand together on. Here's where the dialogue itself proved invaluable. Did they arrive at a statement? No, they didn't. Did they stick together for at least 30 hours of conversation over several different teleconferences? Yes, they did. Did they really hear the pain of the people in Palestine, the Israelis? Yes, they did. Were they able to say, no, this group is right, this group is wrong? They didn't. And that, you might say, gave all of us a new lesson, that this work is the work of holding relationship together, holding mutual respect, and suffering, you might say, a pain of, at this point, there isn't a clarity among these people in words and language that would satisfy, that would, you might say, build a higher level of understanding from these polarities. So we're not perfect yet, no. But are we experiencing, engaging in what it takes to say, I'm going to call you and we're going to talk, even though I am so angry at what's happening in my country, and I'm so afraid of what could happen to my country. Yes, and to us that is a step forward and an absolutely essential step, which really goes to communication and dialogue as such a strong foundation.
But isn't that dialogue then more of a social therapy, where a person who's being hurt is able to yell and scream, get this off their chest, and still find no moral sustenance, no moral support? Because the group sees clearly. Well, let me give an example, very clear example. I asked this question to another very educated priest. I said, given the example of what happened in Iraq, where there were no weapons of mass destruction found, does any nation have the right to occupy the nation? He will not answer that question. I'm going to ask the same question of you. Does any nation have the right to occupy the nation, especially when its primary charge was so false? There are no weapons of mass destruction are found. Why is it still being occupied country, and where is the moral outrage of the spiritual world?
Well, moral outrage, we get asked quite a bit to, as an organization, as a global voice, to speak because there's a moral outrage. There are so many issues around the world to speak to.